reality is I was born and raised in Beverly Hills. Uh, and I was the son of two immigrant parents. So both of my parents were not born in the US. My father was Russian, a Russian Jew, who came over to the United States in the 1950s. And my mother was a French lady who came over after my father asked her to marry him. My father was in the television and movie business.
Mm-hmm.
He was a writer and director. And my mother was a midwife. So she was a delivery nurse, if you will, but instead of going to the hospital and delivering as part of the nursing team, she actually coached natural childbirth.
Mm-hmm.
It was my mother. My mother and I were quite close, and she was really, my strongest role model. She came over to the United States by herself, didn't have any family here.
Mm-hmm.
She lived through World War II.
Mm-hmm.
And she worked for the underground to help, the Allies in the underground, and faced tremendous pressures and stress. And she just gave me, as my best friend and as my life consultant, she gave me a lot of inner strength, my beliefs about life and the world, and just kind of set me on my path. A very unselfish person, very driven person, but very funny person too. She had a very strong personality. I applied to a number of different schools, and when I got into Harvard, that was my choice. I really thought that was going to be the best school for me.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly enough, they're not really an engineering school. MIT is about a mile down the road, and I was able to take cross-register and take engineering courses at MIT, but I really like the Harvard lifestyle, the liberal arts kind of campus education. And so what I ended up having was, as you said, a Bachelor of Arts, since they don't do Bachelor of Science, in computer science, with a specialization in engineering. And when I had the opportunity to move into a more customer facing or people facing role, I really enjoyed that. And I think sales and dealing with people is the most rewarding job ever, because every situation is different. No two situations are the same. You have, a combination of factors that go into a decision making or design making process, and then you have, a set of products that you have to offer, solutions that you have to offer, and it's a wonderful career in my mind, and I've always really enjoyed that.
Do you think people need to take rejection well?
Oh yeah, I think no is just one step on the way to yes. If you're not used to getting told no a lot of times and finding different ways around it, then probably sales isn't for you.
What prompted you to become an entrepreneur? Hi viewers, my name is Upesh Jain. Greetings from the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm the host of the Exec Talk channel, a forum I started to talk to CEOs, executives, and other luminaries about their journeys and distill their experiences and learnings for our viewers' benefit. Today, we have the honor of talking to Mike Ingster, a highly driven entrepreneur with exceptional relationships in the semiconductor industry. Mike spent 25 plus years in semiconductor and EDA sales, and then founded Quantum Leap Solutions in 2011 to bring his years of experience and relationships into a US EDA and IP distributor company. QLS is an experienced professional sales team focused on companies designing custom semiconductors. Extensive portfolio of mixed signal IP and expertise to deliver mixed signal ASICs, RFICs, and SoCs. Way back after graduating from Harvard with a BA in computer science, Mike joined Hughes Aircraft as a design engineer, quickly transitioning to LSI as sales for IP. From there on, he held VP sales positions at CrossPoint, Dynachip, Moscape, and Magma, where Mike and I overlapped for 7 years. He was also GM at SmartPlay, a semiconductor services company, before he founded Quantum Leap Solutions. Mike has an easy collaborative work style that is very customer and team-centric, and he works calmly in high-pressure situations. Mike, welcome to my channel, and I'm really excited to talk to you informally about your journey and distill some learnings for my viewers.
Thanks, Upesh. It's a pleasure to be here. Glad to see you again, and interested to talk to you a little bit about my background and my life. Yeah.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. So, Mike, tell me about your early life. Where were you born and raised, and what was your home environment like, and your role models? How did that influence and shape you?
Yeah, so I was born, I always tell people I was born in Los Angeles, but the reality is I was born and raised in Beverly Hills. And I was the son of two immigrant parents. So both of my parents were not born in the US. My father was Russian, a Russian Jew, who came over to the United States in the 1950s. And my mother was a French lady who came over after my father asked her to marry him.
Mm-hmm.
And funny story, when she came to the United States, she wasn't sure which one my father was going to be because they had met at a party in Paris. And so she said she was the last person to get off the airplane, and whoever was left must be my father. Anyway, so a little history there. But yeah, I was raised in Beverly Hills. If you look at Beverly Hills as a city, there are 4 elementary schools in Beverly Hills. And we were in the, if you can say this, the poor section of Beverly Hills, right? So we were in the area where most people either lived in smaller homes or lived in apartment buildings. And yeah, I had a younger brother, and we lived in this environment. My father was in the television and movie business.
Mm-hmm.
He was a writer and director, and my mother was a midwife. So she was a delivery nurse, if you will. But instead of going to the hospital and delivering as part of the nursing team, she actually coached natural childbirth, Lamaze, and she was able to give women the ability to have strength and have babies, a lot of them without any medication. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So who were your role models at that time?
Well, my father was quite a bit older than my mother, so he and I didn't really have much of a relationship, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
It was my mother. My mother and I were quite close, and she was really, my strongest role model. She came over to the United States by herself, didn't have any family here.
Mm-hmm.
She lived through World War II.
Mm-hmm.
And she worked for the underground to help, the Allies in the underground, and faced tremendous pressures and stress. And she just gave me, as my best friend and as my life consultant, she gave me a lot of inner strength, my beliefs about life and the world, and just kind of set me on my path. A very unselfish person, very driven person, but very funny person too. She had a very strong personality. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. I mean, the profession she was needs a lot of emotional strength and compassion too. So I guess she was a strong woman who was compassionate at the same time, and so quite a role model. So how did that influence and shape you? I mean, that's a pretty broad question, but anything that comes to mind?
I don't know. I when I think about my mother, I just feel strength. I feel confidence. No, not overly confident, just self-confidence.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of know always who I am, and I always feel that I have this drive to succeed, to be passionate, to be kind to people. Um, that's just kind of, a driving force that's in my life, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So Mike, after high school, you went totally to the East Coast and to Boston, Harvard. So how did that come about? And, what were some of your experiences during college? And how did they shape you as a professional?
Yeah, no, having grown up in Beverly Hills, and having spent most of my life there, I really did want to get away. And so I applied to a number of different schools, and when I got into Harvard, that was my choice. I really thought that that was going to be the best school for me.
Mhm.
Interestingly enough, they're not really an engineering school. MIT is about a mile down the road, and I was able to take cross-register and take engineering courses at MIT, but I really liked the Harvard lifestyle, the liberal arts kind of campus education. And so what I ended up having was, as you said, a Bachelor of Arts, since they don't do Bachelor of Science, in computer science, with a specialization in engineering. And I was able to kind of, wasn't really a double major, but I could create a degree like that by taking classes at MIT in engineering. And
Mhm.
yeah, I think Boston was a great city, wonderful place to get an education. Um, Living on your own, you kind of become more self-sufficient, I guess. You learn how to do things like cooking and fend for yourself, and those were things that I learned in college. But really enjoyed my time there, and it was good to graduate when I did. Yeah.
And then you moved full circle back to the West Coast, right, with Hughes, and that was a quintessential engineering job, right? So I guess you got recruited right out of college.
Yeah, actually, Harvard didn't really have a very engineering centric recruitment center. So I was able to maybe sneak into MIT's recruitment office, and I put my resume in there. And through that, I was able to interview with many companies. And one of them was Hughes Aircraft. And when MIT found out that I didn't actually, when the MIT people found out that I didn't actually attend MIT, but I was a transfer student, they took my name out of the pool. But by then my resume had been circulated around, so I was able to interview with the Hughes folks, and
Mhm.
um, really enjoyed their program. They had something called a rotation program,
Mhm.
where you could join the company in one particular area. My first job at Hughes was in space and comm and engineering there. And if you liked it, after 6 months, you could stay in that field, or if you wanted to interview, you get a chance to re-interview within the company and transfer to a new group. And so over a 2-year period, you had the opportunity to do that 4 times every 6 months.
Mhm.
I just did the first rotation after 6 months, and I moved into ground communications group, where I started working on some AWACS and ground communications ASICs, and that's how I moved to my next phase, and I ended up spending the next couple of years in that role.
So hardcore engineering and your exposure to the semiconductor industry, right, at that time.
Definitely, yeah.
And then you transitioned to sales at LSI. Um, what was, or how did that come about? Did you not like engineering, or you liked sales better? I mean, how did that come about?
Yeah, I didn't transition immediately to sales.
Hmm.
What happened is, one of the chips I was designing at Hughes was being manufactured by LSI Logic, which was an ASIC company back in the 1980s, a very
Right.
small ASIC company back in the 1980s, but a fun company. And LSI had difficulty placing routing the chip and laying the chip out with their automated system. So I flew up to the Bay Area and got to meet quite a few of their executives and their team members. I sat in the layout room. I worked with Margie Wong, who was heading the layout team at the time. And because I knew the design, I was able to show the data flow and how to place the registers. And through that effort, we were able to get the chip laid out successfully at that time. And then at the end of that process, having had lunches and meeting people, they were encouraging me to join the company, and asked me to, move to the Bay Area and sort of be the technical marketing guy. And I hadn't really thought of that before, but the more I got to know the people, the company, the passion in the company, the energy, I really liked the idea. And I ended up accepting a job to come to the Bay Area, but it was under the condition that after 6 months, I could move back to Southern California because I thought that's where I wanted to be. And so they wrote that into my offer letter. But of course, once I moved to the Bay Area and started working for LSI, there was no turning back. I just love the Bay Area.
Yeah, the rest is history, as they say. Yeah. So Hughes was in Southern California, right?
Yeah, Hughes was in LA area. Yes, near LAX, exactly.
All right. Okay, so that seemed like a key inflection point into, what you do today. And you got into sales, and in 2011, you founded your own company, Quantum Leap Sales. What prompted you to become an entrepreneur? And actually, before that, could you tell me a little bit about your sales career? Because you held significant management positions for sales in various companies, normally like medium-sized companies. So your foray into sales, how you took a liking to that, what were some of the ups and downs, and then we'll move into your Quantum Leap Sales phase.
Yeah, well, I spent, I don't know, 12, 13 years at LSI Logic. Those were very formative years for me. As you say, I was an engineer in training. I guess I enjoyed the design aspect of things, but when I had the opportunity to move into a more customer facing or people facing role, I really enjoyed that. And I think sales and dealing with people is the most rewarding job ever, because every situation is different. No two situations are the same. You have a combination of factors that go into a decision making or a design making process, and then you have a set of products that you have to offer, solutions that you have to offer, and it's a wonderful career in my mind, and I've always really enjoyed that. So I spent the better part of 12 years at LSI. I started managing the local rep team in the Bay Area, as well as our reps in the Northwest. So I had the Pacific Northwest as my region, and had some great salespeople that I worked with and that I learned from. But I was the one doing all the technical presentations. I was doing all the quotations. At the time, we did a lot with the U.S. government, the military, so there were a lot of regulations and stipulations on how proposals were made. And quite a bit of the business I was doing on the NRE side, design wins, I'd say 75% came from U.S. government. But you had the ability to create and create value, create relationships, that kind of thing. I remember early in my career at LSI Logic, we were working with a company called Lockheed, and they were a big user of our ASICs. And typical programs would be 5 to 6 chips of various sizes. And some of these chips now needed to fly into space. And LSI didn't have inherently its own rad hard process, but we worked closely, and I worked closely with the foundry people and manufacturing people, and we were able to make a recommendation through the foundry people to change the process a little bit to create enough radiation hardness
Mhm.
to satisfy Lockheed, and they funded us to do that. It was, that was one of the early programs, I think, that we created a lot of value and a great solution for them in my early days when I was still in the technical marketing role at
Mhm.
LSI.
So yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So I was just going to ask you, I mean, in your entire sales career, what are a couple of things that stand out in terms of, let's say we were to give a message to the younger generation who are at the cusp of deciding between sales from other functions? What would be two motivators and what would be two challenges for sales for younger people?
Yeah, I guess sales is quite a bit different than engineering. If you enjoy people, if you enjoy dealing with different types of people, and as I said earlier, each opportunity to engage is going to be different, and you have to look at it as being unique. There's no
Cookie
set,
cutter.
there's no cookie cutter solution, right?
Yeah.
That fits every single situation. Of course, your products have value and they have the same value, but how you apply that value to a situation is different. So if you enjoy that challenge, if you enjoy working with people, if you enjoy being a problem solver, I think the other thing, maybe in selling is you can't always be the dominant personality, right?
Mhm.
You need to let the buyer dominate. You need to let the buyer make their decision for their own reasons, and you can't be frustrated with that, right? So you can't tell them, no, you're wrong, this is the right way to do it, or no, you're
Mhm.
wrong, this is the way the product works, and be frustrated with that. I think good salespeople tend to be more listeners. I'd say good listeners and problem solvers rather than talkers and tellers, if you will.
Mhm. Mhm. Wonderful. Yeah. Good advice. And what about rejection? I mean, not all sales campaigns are successful. Do you think people need to take rejection well?
Oh yeah, I think no is just one step on the way to yes. Um, you, if you're not used to getting told no a lot of times and finding different ways around it, then probably sales isn't for you.
Mhm.
Um, there's always a reason somebody says no, right? It's
Mhm.
maybe it's not specifically your product. It might be their situation. It might be the way it was presented. It might be the way they perceive it. So um, you get told no a lot of times, right? And in life,
Right.
um, you're going to fail many, many times. And the thing is, you just have to keep your passion. You have to keep moving forward and learn
Mhm.
from every single failure you have in life. Yeah.
As they say, anything that doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So a
Yeah,
little.
I mean, I learned at an early age the hard events in your life. Um, if you don't have any difficult events in your life as a child, growing up, then you're really not prepared for what life is going to throw at you. And so every time I had a difficult situation, personal,
Mhm.
difficult situation, I always looked at it as a learning experience. Yeah.
Right. No, very nicely put, Mike. So Mike, after your sales career, you also did a stint at Smart Play as a general manager. Were there differences in a general manager role versus a VP of sales role? Um, if yes, I mean, what were some of those differences?
I think as a general manager, you're more concerned about profit and loss.
Mhm.
Um, you're more, concerned about, how the company is doing overall, not just closing sales, the motivation of the team. We had a lot of very technical people in our organization, and the difficulty was that as Smart Play was a design services company, and a lot of our engineers actually worked at the customer site, and so we weren't directly managing them.
Mhm.
Um, but we had to provide support for them. We had to give them guidance. We did their annual reviews, or I did their annual reviews, and try to keep them properly motivated. So that was a challenge, right? When they're not in your organization on a daily basis, when you're not meeting with them, but they're being managed by other folks. So, I remember early on, we had a challenge that we weren't making enough money from a few companies. One of them was Qualcomm. We had quite a few engineers at Qualcomm, and so I had to go down and meet with the Qualcomm executive team and essentially raise prices on them by 20%. Otherwise, we weren't going to, we weren't going to be able to sustain the business level. And those kinds of things are important to do and look at and solve in order to make the relationship win-win for both parties.
Right. So sometimes you have to take a stand and be the bearer of bad news or harsh news, some ways, shape, or form. So essentially, a general manager role is a broader role as compared to a VP of sales role, just for the viewers. And then after Smart Play, you decided to launch your own company, Quantum Leap Sales. How did that consummate? I mean, was it a natural progression, or did you consciously think about that and then took it to fruition? What prompted you to become an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I mean, that took a lot of soul searching, right? When you go out to start your own company, particularly when I did it, I think what was the year 2011 when I did it. Just kind of looking around, and do I want to go back in and be a vice president of sales again at another company, or do I want to kind of do my own thing? And I did a lot of soul searching and thinking about it. And I talked to a couple good friends who said, no, Mike, I mean, your personality is such that you probably do want to go out on your own and give it a go. And so I did, and with a lot of trepidation and concern, are people going to want to buy from me? Are they going to want to believe in me as and as an individual? And so, yeah, I started the company in 2011, December 2011, and was very fortunate to work with some great people. I brought some really good people into the company that I had known over my career, and we started working with small technology companies that wanted help selling into the semiconductor industry. So it was just a natural fit given my relationships and the people that we had brought into our company, their relationships to help these smaller companies grow their business.
So initially there was some trepidation, but you took that leap of faith and leveraged your relationships and people, your network, and things just happened one after the other. And I mean, because that's a key lesson in entrepreneurship, right? When you start, you don't really know what's ahead of you, and then things unfold. Do you think that the dots connect on their own, or things come out of the woodwork and just gives you, the momentum and to move forward? How was your experience there?
Yeah, I think you things happen along the way, but you have to have a strategic plan. You have to have a focus. You have to have a uniqueness in the industry. For us, it was providing a solution and access to a set of customers that are building custom silicon, right? So anybody building custom silicon, we wanted to provide essentially a one-stop shop for them. But we, along the way, we had lots of bumps on the road. There were many, many times when it was very hard. So why am I doing this? Why are we doing this? you know, you run into different situations. It's not just you, it's the economy,
Mm-hmm.
right? When economic situations change and business turns down for various reasons, you go through a revisit and a rethink of where you are and your strategy and your products. And you got to have a lot of, I guess, focus, a lot of patience, and a lot of determination to kind of want to stay in the business long haul.
Yeah. So there's it's a roller coaster, and there's times you feel like giving up, but you got to stay the course and be consistent and persistent, I guess. So that's the key, staying the course, I guess, you know.
Yeah, you know, if you're passionate about what you do, if you
Mm-hmm.
start a company in an area where you have expertise, and then you continually learn to adapt, but stay that with that same focus, I think you'll succeed. They said, what did I
Okay.
read? Some statistics. Not over 90% of companies fail in the
Mm-hmm.
first 5 years because the entrepreneurs quit or stop the business too early, right?
Yeah.
Even though you go through quite difficult times, you need to continue to push through. You don't need always early success, and it isn't a rocket ship to the right in terms of revenue growth.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're persistent and you're passionate, and you know you have the staying power, you
Mm-hmm.
tend, you know, in the long run, I think you'll succeed.
It's like drilling for oil, right? You keep drilling until you strike it in some ways.
And you have little successes along the way, and every time you have, you know, a win or a success, it's very rewarding, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so you learn to cherish those rewards and share with the team the success that you have and continue on.
So, Mike, one question that comes to mind is uh, there's the technical aspect of the sales cycle, and then do people, when they come to Quantum Leap, also trust your reputation, right? I mean, they do business because they're doing business with Mike. There's some level of trust already that exists, besides just what you bring to the table in terms of the offering. Um, I'm sure that element comes into the picture also, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've always, you know, believed in being a high integrity individual. I'm very trustworthy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I say something, you know, I'm not going to go back on it. A handshake is a handshake, right? I honor those terms. So I think bringing people around you also that have high integrity, that have the same beliefs, that always will tell the truth, even if it maybe isn't
Mm-hmm.
the customer wants to hear or what people want to hear, is important, you know, because
Right.
we're only, our product is our, our reputation and our personality, our ability to deliver, our ability to be an ambassador for the company
Mm-hmm.
that we work for. It's really important. Yeah.
Right. Actually, my next question was going to be some of the key values and strengths that make you who you are. And I think you mentioned integrity and uh, staying the course and persistence. Uh, any others that come to mind that have helped you in your lifetime?
Um, I mean, I've always been someone that tries to put myself in the other person's shoes, tries to look at their situation,
Mm-hmm.
tries to understand the complexities of the decision that they're making, and tries to be empathetic.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's an important value to have as well, right? It isn't just
Mm-hmm.
my view or the supplier's view of the world. It's also the buyer's view, and in the particular individual's view of why they're making a decision and the complexities around that. So I've always tried to have that in my mind when I'm working with folks.
be in their shoes and see it from their point of view, right?
Exactly,
Oh,
exactly.
well, that's awesome. I mean, I think that's half the battle. Mike, do you have any professional role models or books or, just events that shaped your sales approach or that you swear by? Um,
Yeah, I mean, in terms of sales approach, when I was at LSI, a lot of my selling style and um, the way that I like dealing with people was shaped in those days. And LSI brought in this training called the counselor salesperson,
mhm.
and um, it's still available today, as a matter of fact. And I just took my team through it, you
Oh,
know.
nice.
But the counselor salesperson is a way of putting a process, if you will, to the different stages
Mhm,
in a relationship or in a sale or in an engagement with an account or a buyer.
mhm,
Uh, and it kind of helps you understand where you are in the cycle. Being an engineer, having these different phases and understanding where I was and
mhm.
kind of putting a description and putting a process around the sales cycle was very, very helpful for me. So
Mhm,
I took that course um, early in my sales career, and then when I went over to Europe, I was in Europe for about 4.5 years for LSI,
mhm.
running some of their major or strategic account teams. I taught it to the whole, not only just the salespeople, but I taught it to the FAEs, the
Mhm,
any of the customer service people, any of the customer facing people. I went around to the different organizations in England and Italy and France
mhm.
and taught the counselor sales class to them. And I still believe highly in that process and the trainings there. It works very well for me.
Awesome, awesome. And it's a framework that people can kind of map their sales endeavor to and take it a step at a time, right? Uh,
Yeah, I
uh,
mean, it teaches you relating, right?
mhm,
And overcoming the barrier of no trust.
mhm,
Um, it teaches you discovery skills and how to overcome the barrier of no need.
mhm,
And it tells you best ways to advocate. But in general, it puts you in a non-confrontational model. I mean, it talks about being a counselor
mhm.
and listening and understanding, and then presenting the solution in terms of what you've discovered. And I've always found that to be the best way to engage on complex opportunities in the semiconductor industry.
Nice, nice. So, Mike, as we draw towards the end of our talk, what advice would you give to young entrepreneurs or recent graduates?
Yeah, I mean, so if you're interested in starting a company, um, I would say make sure you have passion about the area, make sure that you have drive, um, and go for it, right? And no matter what the time and situation is, it's the most rewarding thing is to start your own company, but expect it to be full of challenges. And as you said, Upesh, it's a
Hmm.
roller coaster ride, ups and downs.
Mhm.
But if you bring good people around you and you have strong inner belief in your and drive, I think that over time you will succeed.
Absolutely. So, uh, any final thoughts, Mike, that you'd leave my viewers with on any topic?
As I said before, be passionate about what you do. For me, the reason I moved into sales is I love relationships with people and I love the problems that are presented. And so every day I come to work and it's not work, it's fun, right? It's something I enjoy. And because of that, um, I'll never get bored what I do. And I assume when you're starting a company, you have passion and drive, and
Mhm.
yeah, at the beginning, it's a little bit scary. You're all by yourself, but if you put the right people around you and you have the right drive, I think go for it. You'll enjoy it.
Absolutely. Mike, thank you. Mike, it was really wonderful to hear your thoughts on a variety of things. I really, really want to thank you and acknowledge you for making time for me and my viewers, who I'm sure will be motivated and educated by what you did and what you said today. I wish you the best of luck for QLS and future endeavors. Really appreciate it. Take care and thank you.
Thank you, Upesh.